11. Good evening again. I'd like to call the Committee of the Whole meeting for the Village of Cary for October 19th, 2021 to order with roll call, please.
Cavelli?
Here.
Duda?
Here.
McElwain?
Here.
Walrath?
Here.
Weinheimer?
Here.
Collier?
Here.
Thank you. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now moving to the public comment section. Is anybody here who'd like to address the Committee of the Whole on any business other than what's on the agenda right now? Did you?
I'm sure I'm a little behind on everything, but I know there's a thing coming up as far as turning the property over to McHenry County. And at this time, I just wanted to mention to everyone, I'm sure you're all aware, that when the property was turned over from Trout Valley to the Village of Cary, there are certain restrictions, considering it's a residential area. And I hope you'll all consider that as this property is turned over, and I don't know what's going to happen down the road with it, but just so these things are kept in mind for the people like me that live next door.
Okay. Well, yeah, just a matter, could you just state your name?
Dan Bertelli.
Bertelli, okay. You should have talked before the last meeting because we just approved the conveyance of the property. But just to let you know, the Sheriff's Department and McHenry County has no plans to change the facade of the facility. All the renovations will be done on the interior. And there seems to be a rumor running around, I've been asked several times, that the Sheriff's Department is making a shooting range in this facility. They are not. That's going to be a separate facility off-site here. So they have no plans to make any exterior modifications to the building at all.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I just don't want a used car lot.
No, well, just, it's zoned R1, so God forbid that something should ever happen, which it won't.
Right.
This is a long-term, a long-term project they're working on right now. But if it was, it's zoned R1, so you can only put 3 residential homes here.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
worst case scenario, you get 3 single-family homes, but
Yeah.
they're
I've
in
been
this for
here
the long
31
haul.
years, and the police have been great neighbors. And I know the only problem we ever had, they did something to the swimming pool where the sound deadening wall had to be raised. And I think we had Paul Teagle living here at the time, and he was aware of all the codes. And he talked to you, and they complied. So
Well, that's going away too. That pool's going away.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want to come up to the microphone, please, and state your name?
I'm Jeannie Bertelli, and I wanted to know, is the Park District building going away too?
No,
Just the pool?
just the pool.
And it's going to the Sheriff's Department?
Our building is going to the Sheriff's Department. It's going to be like a regional training facility. They'll be having a sub-office here. So it'll be just municipal operations here, just like what we're using it now for.
All right, and the Park District building, do you know what that's going to be used for?
The Park District building is going to stay there.
Oh, the Park District is going to stay there, they're not going to move it to the pool?
Not at this time.
Okay, you answered all my questions.
Sure. Thank you. Sure. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're coming to the right place to get the right answers.
That's why we're here.
Yes, good. All right, well, thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Is there anybody else here who would like to address the Committee of the Whole? We'll go ahead and close committee, the public comment at 6:15. Moving to the first course of business is a discussion regarding the establishment of licensing requirements for massage establishments. Director Simmons, here we go again.
Thank you, Mayor. As the board's aware, we've discussed licensing requirements a couple times at this level. I think before you is the revised ordinance based off previous discussion. There's a few changes that I'll just highlight from what we've discussed before. One is the accessory massage establishment requirements. As you know, the discussion from the board's level before was to require any establishment that provided massage services to obtain a license. We've revised the ordinance in that effect so that if a establishment provides that service, they would be required to get a license through the Village of Cary. Also, there's a few other modifications to the posting of licenses for masseuses in addition to the massage establishments. We also did propose some new language for advertising restrictions. Those were in response to some comments we received from the public on the ordinance and were found in other communities' ordinances. So very similar to what other regulations are in local municipalities. Finally, the modifications that are proposed for the zoning regulations. We did have some discussion regarding the downtown district last time, and there's some discussion regarding an overlay district. We did discuss it after the meeting with the attorney. And the way our downtown is set up is we have two specific districts, commercial districts, the B1 and the B3R district. The proposal would remove the conditional use as proposed for massage establishments within those districts. So effectively, that would be a restriction on the uses within our downtown district. An overlay district would not be required due to we don't have a mixture of commercial land uses or zoning districts within the downtown. So I believe the proposed changes here are in line with what was discussed previously. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that the board may have. But if the board is satisfied with proposed revisions, we would ask for direction to move forward with this before the zoning board in November to move forward with adopting the regulation.
I got a question about the advertising restriction.
Mhm.
Can you explain it a little bit? Are you talking about like how they publish Facebook ads or how they advertise outside their business?
Yeah, so the requirement is in the proposed ordinance is 5.36140, that section. So it just puts restrictions on the type of advertising information that is how it's depicted or published, whether in the facility or actually published out. So it would have restrictions as far as what type of services they would display within the establishment from that perspective. So it's true to form as far as what actual services are performed in the facility.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a comment. I'm very pleased with these changes that we're making to make it as restrictive as possible, keeping in mind that we have some very reputable people that offer those services, and we're not looking to hamper their ability to do business. But we also want them not to be tarnished by some of these, for lack of a better word, pop-up little places that have been trying to come all over, not just in Cary, but all over. So I'm very pleased with the changes. I feel that we've done a great job discussing this, having robust conversations in our committee of the whole to be able to make some changes to do the best we can to ensure that we have legitimate businesses within our village.
The fee that are we still at $100?
Yes.
And does anybody else have any before I start jumping all over this? I apologize. When it, some of the changes that we made with the posting of the licenses, is there a way that we can require pictures of the therapist to be in line with their license so we know who's who? Is that something that's allowed?
I can't think of any reason that would be prohibited.
Yeah.
It would be inside the business.
Right, and that has to be posted clear so we know, like when the village does an offsite or just an inspection, we know who they're talking to. There's none of this.
To obtain their license, I'm sure they have to verify their identity. That's
Right.
one of the reasons, or one of the bases they would use to identify the applicant.
Yeah, I think under section 5.36070, it discusses current photographs. Shall maintain a register of all persons employed or contracted, including massage therapists, along with their current photographs and a
Yeah.
copy of their license.
Right.
Yeah. In the other section, 36100, is the posting of the actual licenses. So if it's an issue to have those pictures also posted, that could be a modification of that section as well.
Missed it.
It's on page 9.
up at the top.
Okay.
Are you asking for it to be posted publicly? Meaning
Yes,
the picture, okay.
In the business.
in the business.
Correct, in the business indoors.
You know, when they, because they have to show it publicly, and then next to each individual license, I think it would warrant a picture.
I do too.
That could be an easy change we can propose.
And I know, jumping back to that fees, we kind of went back and forth on that. You know, since we're going to be stepping up our inspection services, is this going to be able to cover our costs to do the inspections that we'll be doing periodically? I don't know how often they'll be done, but, you know, we can only justify a fee that would cover our immediate costs. Is this enough to cover our costs?
Yeah, so I think from an administration standpoint, the fee is similar to what we charge for tobacco licenses currently. So it's a $100 fee that covers the administration aspect of it. There may be additional inspections that would be associated with it. Generally, inspection from a building permit perspective is generally $40 per inspection. I can see from depending on how many inspections we do throughout a calendar year, that fee may not cover that full cost. So it might be, if that's a additional cost to put into the license, we can look at, you know, potentially modifying that in the future if there's more inspections that are required to tweak that fee going forward.
I guess we wanted to be reasonable out of the gate,
I agree.
and just with the understanding that we can always come back and modify the fee at some point.
I'm willing
but-
to let this float for the first year and see how it flies.
Yeah, and if we find we're doing 5 inspections of business annually, then we need to revisit the fee if that cover those costs. But if it's the $100 covers what we're doing, then I would say we can
Right,
have
or
a
we could also
discussion.
view it, I mean, Scott, you tell us whether this is possible, but if we found that after a 6-month or a year period when we're revisiting this, if we find out that there are certain entities that we wind up going to more often, could we not set up that said this covers 2 inspections, anything further for any reason, then we could adjust it accordingly?
Well, that depends. I mean, if there are inspections because they were caused by an actual problem, yes. If somebody has just asked us
To go do an
to
inspection?
inspect and it turns out there was really no reason to have to inspect, I'm not sure we could pass that cost on.
Okay,
So based on an actual need to be on the premises, yes, I think you could probably pass those costs on.
okay.
And to confirm too, for the board's perspective, on in section 36-230, there is reimbursement for costs for an investigation. So if we do have to do more inspections and there's an issue that arises from those inspections, we do have the ability to recoup those costs, you know, if any were to occur.
Yeah.
Is there any other comments, suggestions on this? Is everybody okay with the things as amended with what's being presented now and the amendments we've made tonight? So we can put this on the consent agenda. Well, we have to go through ZPA,
Yep.
and then we'll come back. Okay? Everybody good? Got your marching orders,
Yep, I
Brian?
do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the feedback on this.
Don't go anywhere. All right, is the chief handling this
We
next one?
pass the
Okay.
baton.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to go talk about alcohol on the streets right now. What are we doing here in Cary? Oh, my gosh. Now we're going to have a discussion regarding village code amendment for public way consumption within a downtown social district. Chief Finland.
Thank you. Next slide, please. This is kind of a slide to remind us what we discussed previously, and that was that the downtown social district would be downtown, and it would be defined on certain streets that were adjacent to businesses that would have the ability to have the liquor licenses, and they can serve alcoholic beverages, and a common area that people could take them out, the served alcohol out into a public area for consumption in those public areas. So we'll talk about the conceptual boundaries, the types of beverages. If you remember when we spoke about this previously, I was much more conservative than everyone else was, and there was a desire to have mixed drinks. So we'll talk about expanding that. We did talk about the type of cups or containers that would be used for the businesses that would serve these alcoholic beverages. and the hours of operation. We're going to learn that those hours have been expanded a little bit in this amended ordinance. And then what we didn't know at the time when we were talking about this before was if there was any interest by the current licensees that are located in the social district. And Administrator Wright had his discussions with those businesses, and he could shed some light on the discussions that he had with those business owners or licensees. So next slide, there you go, thank you. The boundaries as are depicted here in blue on the slide, and this is one of those two areas of the sample ordinance that was provided that there is a little bit of a difference between what's in the ordinance, the sample ordinance, and what is the final determination in regards to the boundaries of the social district. So it would be that area on High Road north of West Main Street, and then Spring Street south of West Main Street down to Cary Street, and then Jandis Road basically south to Cary Street as well. And then the West Main portion would extend to the property line of the Cary Ale House up to Jandis Road. So that would be the social district that would be defined. It's found in the definitions in the new ordinance. And I put a sample of what you might see at those areas where we would place signs to notice individuals that they can't carry alcohol beyond those points or beyond those areas that are designated or defined in our ordinance. Next slide, there you go, thank you. The licensee interest is a majority of the licensees, licensed establishments downtown were interested in this, and I think I could turn it over to the village administrator.
That kind of answers your statement. So, yeah, there is interest by all the licensees to participate in this program. So that was one of the items that the committee of the whole had requested, was to get some feedback from the downtown businesses. We reached out to them, and for the most part, I think it was very positive. The one item that they had a question about was the cups, and there was a request to potentially use stickers instead of having the cups with the labels be, I guess.
I call it embossed.
Yeah, there we go.
Lost.
But talk to that one business owner about the potential of that being removed. This isn't perfect, but we think that it's a good model. So very interested in this. They're excited about it.
And that's a nice segue into the beverage containers. Again, we were talking about a 16-ounce or smaller clear plastic container or a cup with the business name on it. And that is more related to when I start talking about the public consumption on a public way as it relates to an exception to that ordinance that we're going to talk about at the end of the presentation here. So there's samples of the cups that were provided by Attorney Euler from Muskegon, Michigan, that had very much what we were looking at in terms of some type of container for use in this particular social district. There was, at one time, our transaction limit was 1 drink per transaction. There was a discussion in regards to people might be saving a table outside, so someone would have to go get a second drink for somebody. So the transaction limit in the ordinance is 2 drinks per transaction for consumption in the social district. So someone can go in, buy 2 drinks, and bring it out. Coming up here to the next item that I should have been more specific on was the beverage types. And as we indicate before, beer, wine, and mixed drinks, that's a non-alcoholic mixer with an alcoholic liquor as your mixed drink. And then no individual servings of drinks less than 1.5 ounces or less. And what we would be doing is attempting to restrict or prohibit what normally people would call shots being served and consumed in this public space. The licensees would have to obtain an additional endorsement to their liquor license to participate in this, and they would also have to execute a hold harmless agreement for the use of that public space. And then, so that was all the liquor code issues as it related to the amendments that would be required or suggested for the social district. The second, or this final item, modification of offenses against public decency, is found in another section of the village code. And basically, we do not allow consumption of alcoholic beverages on public streets, public ways. That's what the ordinance currently says. However, there are exceptions to this. For example, when the liquor commissioner says that you can do that as a condition of a license, like in Main Street Fest, because we basically close that roadway, and that becomes, if, in my mind, you put a roof over it, it becomes an establishment. So in this particular instance, we would allow consumption of alcoholic beverages on the public way in that social district from March 1st to December 15th. The hours would include 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., and that was in line with the hours of operation to those businesses that are located in that social district. And it only applies to beverages that are served by the liquor license holders within the social district that have that endorsement. So it does not allow for someone to bring something from outside and consume it in that public way. It would have to be in a certain cup, and it would have to be provided or served by a licensee within that social district. So with that being said, that's all I had for this. If there was any questions or comments that I could entertain, I'd be happy to do so.
The one item too that I'll say that I guess we forgot to mention, but we've talked about at previous meetings, was the endorsement fee. And that was talked about with the businesses of $250 for the endorsement, and there weren't any issues with that. Obviously, we may have some additional costs that we incur depending on how popular this is, from an extra officer potentially downtown, like on cruise nights, and it is implied that that will help offset some of our costs.
Any other comments or suggestions?
And this is just the evolution of the expansion of the businesses into the public space during the pandemic.
I have some questions.
Sure, sure.
So, and maybe I'm misreading because there's a lot to read here, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Is it suggested, or are you suggesting that Class G and Class H licenses will have different hours of operation?
I would have to refer to, no, I don't believe so.
Well, in here, it's talking about Class G operating between 11 a.m. and 9 p.m., page 22. And then page 23, under, let's see, where was the other one that I
F,
saw?
under F.
This?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
It's talking about different 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., which doesn't seem to be correct.
Well, the business could operate from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., but they wouldn't be able to operate or serve alcoholic beverages that would be consumed in the public way after 11 p.m.
Okay, so the serving hours,
Are only related to the social district.
okay, and will those be 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. then? Or what exactly will the social district operating hours be?
6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
I think 6 a.m. is unnecessary, but that's just my personal comment. On one of the slides, I thought I saw 16-ounce mentioned, Chief. Did I correct?
Or less.
Okay, because the ordinance on page 22 also addresses 12 ounces, which I think is maybe more appropriate. It's not as big. So item number E1, it talks about 12 ounces, but I thought I saw on the slide 16. So are we talking about 12 or are we talking about 16?
Well, if we could just clarify this, so Director Simmons, if you recall, those businesses downtown, they're generally Class
Class
A?
A.
Class A.
License types, yes.
So we're getting into the Class G. Trustee Dudek, I understand your comments, but that's a Class G. So the businesses downtown, they're all under the Class A premise.
For the most part, there's a Class J license as well in the downtown, but it's very
And-
similar to Class A.
And J is for the ale house, I presume, right?
Okay.
For the Orchard Prime.
Orchard Prime, okay.
So I guess my, the end game here for me anyway is that I like consistency in hours. I don't like the real early hours that just speaks to a whole different environment, one that I'm not so crazy about. And I would like consistency in the size of the serving as opposed to a variety. So those were a couple of things that I,
If I could interject, and Brian, please clarify, the Class G is specific to complimentary dispensing of alcohol. And first, we don't have any of those licensees. And second, the state of Illinois has dramatically different rules when it comes to complimentary alcohol. So some of those restrictions, if I were to guess, and as a layman, I would guess here that those probably are trying to follow along in the footsteps of what's allowed under complimentary. So currently, if we don't have a complimentary liquor license, I don't know that it's a relevant item for us to address at this time.
only as it relates to the 16 ounce versus the 12. So if the ordinary rules for complimentary limit you to 12, then to me, our 16 seems to be excessive, that I would probably want to be consistent there. I'd like, to me, it's like, let's make it easy to police. And what if there is a complimentary at some point in time that happens, and you're having to differentiate between the 16 and the 12? It just seems to be a little mixed up.
Well, the challenge that they have, the majority of the cups that the businesses have, the A and the J are the 16 ounce cups. So we're getting into the Class G focus where when we go back to, A and J, they're serving beer out of 16. So if we would cut it to 12, they'd have to buy different cups.
Well,
And
currently,
different
they're
and
not
different
allowed to
pricing
be
for their
able to
products,
do
et
it
cetera,
all.
et cetera.
Right.
Again, and I would say that if anything, we would want to amend the Class G license. I don't think that that's needed or appropriate, considering we don't have any in class. But having done some complimentary in my business, it's very specific as to what you can offer for free. And I believe this is just following in those guidelines. So the potential there, and if you notice, it's specific to 12 ounces for beer, 5 ounces for wine, et cetera, et cetera. It's very specific on how much you can give away for free for very good reason. It's a big difference between people paying for alcohol and people getting it for free under the complimentary type. So as it leans to what we're doing here at the social district, 16 ounces is the most common alcohol pour as far as particularly on beer. And that's just the cap. Nobody's going to sell 16 ounces of whiskey as a drink or 16 ounces of wine or a drink. They have their standard operating procedure of what they pour to. So I believe that what we have in there currently is satisfactory. If anything, we would want to compare it to the state of Illinois' complementary rules and make sure that if we were going to change Section E, number 1, to 16 ounces for beer, that we would just match up and wouldn't be in any violation of any state liquor laws.
And I would also say that when we were looking at the cups in regards to providers, the 16-ounce cups are generally more available in what we were hoping to have developed for this particular use. And 16 ounces is just basically a solo cup. That's pretty standard. And that was more the reason that it was commonly available to any of the distributors. And I have to agree with Trustee Walrath that does look like, and usually they have a restriction in regards to like whiskey and things like that, where it's 1 ounce, two drinks, 1 ounce or more, and that's it for those complimentary services.
And the only other thing, Chief, I was curious about, is this a 12-month-a-year program, or is it seasonal, or what's the thought?
It was March 1st to December 15th.
I must have missed that. Okay, thank you.
I'll ask the question that we didn't answer was the 6 AM. Who serves liquor at 6 AM and it's open at 6 AM?
I don't think anybody's, it's, you know, most of the hours operation, they start like around 11 o'clock.
Okay, that's what I kind of thought.
And then it says here, and I just want clarification, I guess the outside dining alcohol consumption is from 8 AM to 12 midnight, Friday and Saturday, and then 8 AM to 11 PM on Sunday through Thursday.
Yeah, and under the Class H, the corkage, it says 6 AM to 2 AM on that one. So we do have different hours in different license classes.
I think what we were trying to achieve was be consistent with outdoor consumption.
I believe it was related to the ancillary open spaces or outdoor spaces that a business could have.
The outdoor
And
seating.
they're restricted up to 11 PM.
Outdoor dining establishments are allowed to provide table service up until 11 PM or midnight. So for anybody that's going to carry a drink from downtown, that would be limited to 11 o'clock. But if they start providing table service, that would be
But if they were in the morning, they couldn't serve anything till 8 AM if they're seated outdoor dining, but the social district area they could be out there at 6 AM.
correct. The outdoor dining ordinance starts at 8 AM. But the establishment, if they're open, could provide liquor to somebody inside the establishment.
Okay.
We can pinch it if you'd like to pinch it.
Well, currently, we have nobody that's open at 6
Yeah,
AM.
that's what I was just asking.
Yeah,
It's open at
if we
6
want
AM.
to, if we want to reduce it,
Yeah, I
we can
believe that
reduce
most
it.
of the establishments open at like 11.
Yeah.
I think these are intended, correct me if I'm wrong, these are just intended as fences.
Yeah.
And the
Maybe.
businesses are going to operate however they're going to operate. And, you know, if there's a business for a 6 AM Bloody Mary, then somebody will open it and sell them. If there's not, they're not going to do so. I mean, our local coffee shop is backed off to 7 o'clock now, so.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, was there a desire to amend it or just leave it as it is?
Leave it
Just
as
leave
it
it
is.
as it is.
Okay.
See how it goes.
Let's
For
try
now,
it
is there
out.
anything else anybody has to offer? Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Well, that concludes the committee meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a second.
Whatever. Second.
Sorry, Courtney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are no opposed. We are adjourned at 6:43. Thank you.
Good turn.